Yes.
Welcome, this is KUTV.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for speaking to us.
Good to be here.
Please just introduce yourself briefly and briefly again. I can't even tell you half of how amazing that was to be on the red carpet at Showmax relaunch, and also whatever happened inside. A host of performances from Nikita Kering to Okello Max. It was just one of a kind launch, and Showmax 2.0 will showcase local content, as I said there, from some of the interviews that you've seen there, and of course we'll be showing a bit more of that. That was just a teaser into what happened at the red carpet. There'll be more conversations even with Nzola Miranda, who's building high performance teams and also taking care of partnerships at the MultiChoice Group. There was also of course the main conversation and the main speech from the general manager of Showmax in East Africa, that is Emma Gishonge, who had a press briefing earlier in the day, and then later on in that red carpet and launch that happened in Sankara in Westlands. Showmax is giving you a host of new content with their partnerships from Telemundo, DreamWorks Animations, Warner Bros, HBO, Comcast, NBC Universal. You can get to enjoy the latest Oppenheimer, which is live on Showmax, and see what that looks like. It won all the Oscars in the latest edition of Oscars, so you can get to see what that looks like as you wait for House of Dragons coming later in the year, and of course a lot of local entertainment from Single Kiasi to Gigi to Pepeta and Kantai are some of the cast that we talked to there on that launch. It was exciting. Remember, as I said, the Showmax prices begin from 300 Kenyan shillings for mobile only, and then 500 Kenyan shillings. You're getting that to stream football, Premier League football on mobile only. Again, 650 Kenyan shillings if you want just shows with no Premier League football, and 700 Kenyan shillings discounted price exclusively for mobile phones if you want to watch football and also to access shows. But if you want to see all these shows across all your devices, that is, you can watch it on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop, and still watch it on TV, which means you're giving access to many of the people in your household. 1,000 Kenyan shillings is what that gets you. 1,000 Kenyan shillings is the package for Showmax to stream and show across all your devices. So visit showmax.com and then check it out and let us know what you think about the new Showmax and the future of streaming in Africa. Now, since we are speaking so much about information that you can get on Showmax, we'll be coming back to discuss the Information Act of 2016 that was enacted by Parliament. I have a guest of the day. I'll be letting you in on that. Don't go too far. Biashara Tuesday, we'll be right back.
Repossessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more, only on Law Matters.
First time?
Yeah, I'm kind of scared, but I can do this.
Yeah.
Mess with me. Yeah, let's do this, man.
From the hospital corridors, we bring you experts to discuss issues affecting your health. From diet to mental health, the familiar and the ignored are both put into perspective. We then dive into the environment and look at the effects of climate change and its solutions. Join me, Mutegi K. Martin, every Friday at 9 p.m. as we learn on how to better our health while taking care of our environment. Only on KUTV.
Ni kaunti maarufu kwa kuzalisha maziwa na ukuzaji wa majani chai. Pia, serikali ya kaunti inawahimiza wakulima kukumbatia mitindo mingine ya kilimo kuzidisha mapato.
Kama kuna kikundi moja inafanya biashara ya kuuza kuku, hao pia tumewafadhili kuwafunza jinsi ya kuhandle zile kuku kwa sababu wanaleta kwa wingi.
Haya yote tunakuletea katika Boresha Kilimo, toleo la kaunti ya Bomet.
Kilimo ni nguzo kubwa kwa ujenzi wa taifa.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audio-visual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
Government expenditure, government mis-expenditure. I think that's what we should be calling it. Some more on this show so that we are putting them some pressure. I'll make sure when I spend it carefully. But what if you wanted to know what President William Ruto spent last month in terms of State House renovations and rehabilitations? Is that information that you're privy to? What if you wanted to know what parastatals are up to in Kenya? Is this something? Which are entities using your tax? Is this something that you can get access to? To what extent do you have the power to receive information that is there for public domain? As a private institution, as an individual in Kenya, this is provided to you through the Information Act, which I have here opened to have a look at. The Information Act that was put there in 2016, or that was put into law in 2016 by Parliament, has been in effect since then. Gives you, that power to get information from the government and from also other entities that have information that is relevant to you for the public domain. So why did Parliament see it fit to bring us this kind of information? What are the exemptions to this? And as a citizen, I'm asking my guest of the day here before we go on, and he'll be letting us that information when he comes into the show, is I am allowing other people to have this right to information as I am as well. So when I'm sleeping at night, should I fear that someone else is accessing my information and has power through the Constitution to ask government to give them my information? To what level should I be afraid of this, or should I be afraid at all? And in what ways does it give me power over the government or power over some of the information that I should be receiving from the government. I want you to put this into effect as from today. Yani kama kuna ile information ulikuwa unataka kujua, just put it there and then ask us if it's also falling under that category of access to information. Timothy Kimaiyo is here for the second time to give us this conversation. He's the Communication and Advocacy Officer at InformAction Kenya. We had a conversation some time back as well, and then here it's just like a continuation on information and access to information. Welcome back, Timothy. I'm glad to have you here on Biashara Tuesday.
Thank you so much, OKENYE.
Yes.
And I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to speak on the issue of Access to Information Act.
Right.
And I must say that I'm elated and honored to be here. I think the other time we were talking about information disorder, and how, we're talking about information disorder, how it affects, democratic processes, how it's affecting service delivery. But today, this is a timely conversation, and I'm glad that we want to look at how our Access to Information Act of 2016 will affect service delivery. You mentioned a few things, including how government is spending public resources, and you've also talked about the 1 billion that has been allocated for disaster management fund, and questions around how these resources have been utilized are some of the things that maybe we can look at and see how what citizens or how citizens are able to access that kind of information from the government entities.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for always creating time as well here for us. Maybe I think then we can speak about InformAction Kenya. What is it all about, and what kind of advocacy are you up to in InformAction Kenya?
Okay, so InformAction Kenya is a unique human rights organization that uses film and community discussions to get the communities to speak out on certain issues. For instance, if we're looking at, let me give you an example of one of the issues that we were looking at a few weeks ago when I was in the Koso region, is an health facility, which was, the construction of the health facility started in the year 2016, but up to date, that facility has not been completed. The structure itself is done, but now the finishing of the same and also equipping of the health facility has not been done. You can imagine that is more than 5, 6, 7 years ago, and this has not been done. So we just help the communities now to speak on these issues, and we use a very interesting approach where we have field teams in different. We have about 6 bases in the western region, 1 in the central Koso region of eastern Kenya, and also in Nairobi region, where we have a team that is made up of a field director, there's a camera person, there's a driver. So because they're mobile, they usually use a car, and they move closely to the people at the community level, just to give them that opportunity to speak and take action. We use a very interesting approach, OKENYE. It's called Watch, Discuss and Act.
Watch, Discuss and Act.
So through the community film screenings, the communities are able to look at how different communities in different parts of the country took action for about the issues, and then from there they're able to they'll have a session to discuss the issues that they're grappling with, and then later on then they decide to take action. So they can either take action by protesting or maybe presenting petitions to authorities based off the issues that they're going through. Okay,
interesting angle there using film. Why was that the approach that you guys decided to go with?
I think film is it's an interactive tool, because again this is something that is that is interesting, and it showcases what people are exactly doing at the ground, at the community level. So because of that interaction, then people are able to discuss based on that film.
Nice. So when we are talking the ATI Act, I'm sure this is something that is very core to the discussions happening at InformAction. Is it something that you're often looking at, matters with access to information?
It is. It is. And it's important to know that you've mentioned earlier that information is power, because again, that gives you an upper hand in terms of decision-making processes. You're able to make informed decisions. And So when talk about access to information, it's because there's a lot of information that is held by the government entities, public entities, that is very crucial. But the question is, do Kenyans understand the processes of getting that information? What are some of the critical information that you can obtain from the counties or maybe the national government? How is your information handled in those levels? So those are some of the issues that we're looking at, and then we are trying to help the communities and the citizens in terms of building the capacity on how to access that kind of information. Yeah.
Now you've brought here information numero uno that every Kenyan should have, which is the Constitution of Kenya that you have here with you, which is the number one information. I think every baby akizaliwa anafaa kupigwa Constitution.
That is true.
Pigwa Constitution before hata urapiwe.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's something that every Kenyan should be having at the. It is. Why did you come with it? Maybe you can start.
I came with it because of this is a very important document for any Kenyan, because if you look at the first article of this constitution, it talks about Kenyans having that, they have the power. All the power belongs to the people.
Yes.
If you look at this constitution, sovereign, that is what I was looking for.
Yes.
So also the sovereign power belongs to the people.
Yes.
So if you look at this constitution, then as a citizen of Kenya, you have every right to if today we're talking about access to information, you have that right to request for that kind of information. Look at articles like 37 on the right to protest and picketing and whatnot. So this is available in the constitution.
This is a Bible for.
This is a Bible for. Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah, that is true.
We'll have it. This is what we should be having Benny Hinn walk around.
Exactly.
Let me not get distracted. Let's focus on access to information. The Access to Information Act of 2016. Does it truly empower Kenyans to access information, or are there bureaucratic roadblocks which hinder its effectiveness? Because normally, and correct me if I'm wrong, for someone who's out there at home, if I tell them to just walk into a police station and get some information, which I'm sure some of it they can access from that point, they'll be like, unajua hiyo ni story. I can't walk into the treasury niwaambie, give me a copy of the finance bill, the report from last year, the expenditure. I wanna have a look at a few things. And we see it in films, when we are shown a situation maybe in other developed democracies where someone could just walk in and have it printed even for free, and walk out with 35 length pages of worth of a document. Does this act truly empower Kenyans? Is this something that we can use? You mentioned Article 37, and it's also one of those which are challenged when it comes to demonstrations happening. Like, is it?
That is true. Okay, I think the issue that is, the main challenge that we're experiencing in Kenya is, first is people do not understand that there's an act, that gives them that right to access information. I think that is a problem. If every Kenyan could understand that they have that right to access information, then I think things could be easier.
Okay.
Now, for this particular, just to answer your question is, I think Kenyans there should be that kind of a continuous capacity building on this kind of, articles. This is very crucial because, again, for you to be able to, track how public resources are spent, how the different documents or maybe how county processes are being done, it's important for you to understand that you have that right to seek any kind of information from any public entity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this is important because, again, it's important because it fosters what is called accountability and transparency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess I think access to information means the very first thing is the government should be providing the Constitution of Kenya to every single Kenyan.
That is true. There's what is called there's a term I'm looking for. There's what is called is it public information disclosure. So this talks about government entities having that mandate of making sure that information is made public without necessarily waiting for any formal application.
Okay.
So they have a mandate as provided for in the Constitution of Kenya. So this Act of Parliament, the most important thing is that it gave now the government of Kenya a mandate to ensure that they're able to provide that information that is of public interest to the public not just by waiting for any requester to make that formal application, but it's a responsibility to do it.
Okay. This is something that they should do even before, we prompt them to do so.
Exactly.
Okay. Is it also, does it apply to private bodies as well?
It does. Yeah, it does. Now, if you look at the Article 35, it talks about how these access to information acts enables you to get an information from any state organ and also individuals and private entities.
Okay.
And this happens when we're talking about you're trying to ensure that Kenyans are able to enjoy their right or maybe the fundamental freedoms. So that is now where you have that right to access information. However, there are limits to access to information. I think that is a discussion we'll have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm guessing it applies especially even issues of public interest when it comes to CCTV footages.
Exactly.
Some financial transactions, cold records, which we see happen time to time with telecommunication services. But again, limitations do exist as with everything. But we'll get into that maybe another time or even within this conversation.
Exactly.
But I'm interested when the government provides something. The Act of Parliament 2016. It's not easy. It's not. Let's say it's not normal for us to receive something from Uncle Sam. Yeah. So they provided the right to access information. What really motivated Parliament to do this shift from secrecy to transparency?
I think one of the things that as really was important was the aspect of transparency and accountability.
Okay.
Because again, we're talking about public resources, and there's the question of how these public resources are being utilized by state officers. So it was important because number two is it also helped the communities or maybe the citizens to be able to access that kind of information from any state organ or any public entity. And then also one of the things that really motivated the Parliament is so that now government institutions will take up the role of making sure that they publicize any information that is intended for the public.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are saying effectively we have seen a shift where Kenyans are genuinely getting information that they want or that they deserve.
Yeah, to some extent. However, we have continued to witness a number of challenges, including, I think, the main challenge in terms of public communication is the issue of now, audience segmentation, understanding the audience, because I know that there are different variables that you need to look at while planning or maybe doing your communication. There's the issue of internet penetration. I think that is a challenge because again, most of the time, some of these documents are published in the websites, but do you think, or maybe do you believe that everyone in the country is able to access that kind of information?
Definitely not.
So I think that aspect of now, understanding your audience and also how information is being disseminated is one of the challenges that we're still experiencing in Kenya today. And also how the complexity of most of these documents, because look at something like the finance bill of 2024. You can imagine how
complex that
it's really complex. And that is where now the issue of simplifying some of this information to a format or maybe to a language or maybe in a way that the public can easily understand. I think those are some of the issues that we're still experiencing in this.
Now I see the gap that InformAction and maybe more of us should be plugging into. That is creating that bridge to reduce the complexity.
Exactly.
That is there with these documents.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, we're working with different development partners like Bread for the Wall, and we have also the European Union that has been supporting us in terms of either working directly with the communities or through grassroots organizations in terms of building the capacity on some of these issues, like Access to Information Act. And that is now where the issue of simplifying some of these documents comes in.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know things like county integrated development documents, those documents are really big. So what we're trying to do is simplifying some of these documents, make them, put them in a format that, that is interactive.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a way for me to put the government up to task so that my mother understands what is there in the Finance Bill 2024? I feel like this is information that is relevant. This act does give me that level of power. How can I use the power within this act to ensure that information that is relevant when it comes to maybe matters of vaccination, matters of, as we said, finance, maybe contracts and everything. There's critical information that is relevant to the democratic process, especially if we're taking a look at the finance bill. This is important to inform someone's maybe democratic mind. Next time when I vote, this is how I should go about. And I feel this is information that I should put the government to task to ensure my mother, my aunt, my grandfather understands what is there in the finance bill. Is there a way for me to do that? Make sure I'm provide.
Yes, it is. There is, and as I mentioned earlier, there are different ways you can do it. There's public participation is provided for in the Constitution of Kenya. That is very critical, and Kenyans can use that platform to ensure that they're able to, advocate for some of the issues, or maybe push, or maybe put the government to task.
Okay.
So they can use that platform. Number two is with the advent of the internet, I think there's an opportunity as well to, expand civic.
Education.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the digital space is very important again for us as Kenyans. In terms of holding government entities to account.
Yeah, I can say for sure public participation, I think, has improved from the reports that I've been reading here when it comes to matters of public interest, even at the county level. I have seen cases where when the Mombasa finance bill, also Mombasa County finance bill came out, I saw residents coming up together to go petition with the governor and give out their sentiments as well. We've seen that in Nairobi County. I've seen it in Kisii County as well, and also a few other things that happened in between the finance bill where Kenyans are needed to give their opinion. Well, we have not seen the results on the other end, which is taking into account what the citizens are saying. But I think that's a good step.
It is, yeah, it is.
It is quite a step.
It is.
It's a cultural shift of that nature. And I want us to also talk about cultural shift in terms of access to public information, or access to information, as is with this act that you're talking about. You mentioned that capacity building is going to be important if we need people to also walk into government institutions and demand for information. What can we do in terms of cultural shift, such that it's a norm for all of us to, put the government to task, put these public entities to task in terms of getting information? How can I normalize it that I can walk into the Ministry of Health and ask them about vaccination records from 2020? What can we do in terms of cultural shifts?
First is it's good to acknowledge that we have made strides in terms of our democracy.
Yeah.
And we've achieved a lot. But again, there's this kind of stereotype where, let me use an example of the political space and how ODM, or maybe the communities that is perceived to be supporting ODM. These are people who are seen to be proactive, in terms of calling out at the government and protesting and whatnot. There are different communities who feel like if they try to seek information from a certain institution or an office, that brings an, it's against their culture.
Yeah, it's against the norm.
This is an elder. This is someone who is respected,
chosen by God.
Exactly. So you can't ask questions.
Yeah.
I think there should be that shift for whole Kenyans to understand that this is a right that cuts across all the communities. Everyone has the right to information, because again, most of these issues, when talk about corruption or embezzlement of funds, it affects all counties in Kenya. So if you want to ensure that we're able, all the taxes that we are contributing, or maybe we are contributing, is being utilized in a manner that is that is expected or maybe required by the Constitution of Kenya, then we have to take a step in terms of understanding this act, and now making sure that we're able to ask some of these questions. Because again, in during while looking at maybe things like annual development plans, I know that the communities are heavily involved in terms of development of the document.
Yes.
So let me give you an example of, let's say, a dispensary or maybe an health center where around 10 million has been allocated. So you have every right to ensure that you're able to track how that money is being utilized and how long it took for that kind of that particular facility to be concluded.
Okay.
So it's important for Kenyans to ensure that they're able to ask some of these questions.
Right.
Yeah.
A right to information is also a right to your rights.
That is true.
You're getting access to what you need to be privy to in terms of what the government is doing. I have here an article which I was actually looking up for my next question. There were efforts by a parliamentary committee to establish how the Kenya Defence Force spent 135 billion Kenyan shillings, and this proved very futile because the Defense Cabinet Secretary, Eden Duale, refused to give a breakdown of the expenditure of how KDF spent this money in 2022 and in 2023. So, which brings me to this question of national security versus public scrutiny. Exempt information, which is a double-edged sword, right? How does the Act ensure, or is there a way actually to ensure that exemptions are used genuinely and not as a way to maybe shield government missteps? Because, I would be very curious on why he doesn't want me to know what the KDF spent. But on the other hand, it will be maybe an issue of national security. So how do we balance that feeling? Or does the Act give me actually a way to do that?
So if you look at this Act, it protects two people. It protects the government and also protects the person who is requesting that information, a requester.
Okay.
You see? So for this particular, case, we were talking about exempt information. This is basically information that is deemed to be, sensitive. And most of the time, if this information is made public, it jeopardizes the security or maybe the operations of that government institution. That becomes an issue. It becomes a challenge for such kind of. But again, the scenarios where some of this information is said to be of public interest.
Okay.
Right? So especially when we are asking questions on accountability. And number two, if we are looking at how public funds have been utilized.
Okay.
And for the case of
KDF.
KDF. I think that is that was a question of accountability. It was more of accountability and not issues of security and whatnot. So I think yes, asking for that information is critical, because again, these are public resources. These are taxpayers' money. It's important for them to make them public. Yeah, that is your money.
Yes.
And it's important for you to understand how it is being utilized.
Okay.
So I think as much as it's protecting this kind of information, protecting this kind of institutions, then there's what is called issues of public interest. Yeah, that is a matter of public interest.
Okay.
But if you look at this article again, it gives such institutions the right to withhold that information for a period of 30 years.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So you withhold it for this 30 years and then you can make it public.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So does this give me also some kind of peace, knowing that when I'm sleeping at night, as I said earlier, my friend Kevin isn't going there asking the government about where I live and what I do during my time? Does it, give me that peace of mind, knowing it also protects me in that way?
Exactly. That, as I mentioned earlier, these limitations in some of these acts of parliament or maybe regulations, because again, there is what is called the Data Protection Act that protects your privacy, which is again key in terms of protecting or maybe the extent in which someone can access your information or maybe request your information. If that kind of information that is requested about an individual is likely to affect or maybe affect the safety of an individual or maybe an health of an individual, that is where now those limitations come in. And then when you're talking about issues of sensitive information, like for that case of maybe the defense ministry and whatnot, any information that is sensitive, then there are some kind of limitations to that.
All right. So that is what you get there. That is that peace of mind that you get there, but also the power with the Access to Information Act, ATI, passed in 2016. So maybe just to, again, go through it real quick before I get into my last bits of questions. Parliament passed this law. For you to have this, to facilitate and make it easier for you to enjoy the right to access information that is provided by the Constitution, which we have with us here today. It also creates a way for the public, which means for you and private institutions to provide information when requested, and to make it easier to get this information from private bodies, especially when the information will assist in protection and the enjoyment of other people's rights, to encourage the public and private institutions to regularly provide information about their work, and to protect those in good faith who provide information of public interest, aka whistleblowers. Yeah? Hapo ndo wako protected sana. To create a way for educating wananchi about the rights to information, as we are doing here on the show, and also to give the Commission on Administrative Justice the powers to ensure this law is followed. So go to your member of parliament and request for information about what he's been up to and what he's up to in the next few months, because this is information that is given to you and the power is there in the Constitution, Article 35. Now, information activism. We've seen situation, as I've mentioned, with whistleblowers there, where this access to information has actually brought some good and sparked positive change. You know, given the latest fertilizer scandal, that information, we've seen Okia Umtata digging up information here and there, and I think it's a good sign for Kenyans who think that it isn't working, that they should look at this beyond the law. Cultural shift to make mentally, that the Constitution is offering you an opportunity to get this information for your own public good. Into the future, how do you think we can strengthen this act further to empower Kenyans and hold institutions more accountable?
So I think first is I had mentioned something to do with proactive disclosure, where some of these institutions are required to make sure that this information is made public. This act is fair enough to me. And what we need to do is that continuous capacity building.
Okay.
However, there are some sections where maybe there's a need for some amendment, especially in terms of, you know, there's the offenses where, you know, the offenses, that there are some issues that touches on offenses that maybe needs to be relooked on. Number two is there's need to look at how, you know, how long that information takes for you to be able to get that information, because again, there's a process of you know, accessing that kind of information. And then I think also the issue of people working in those institutions, or maybe the access information access officers, this need to expand that scope, because again, I think looking at this document, there's a limit to who can make sure who can provide that kind of information.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And there's also an audit trail, which is a mandatory part to have a look at that request process. I just wanted to remind people that hakuna kitu kidogo unafaa utoe. According to Section 12 of that Access to Information Act of 2016, it is supposed to be given to you free of charge. So unlike your OB or whatever else you get charged at the police station for kitu kidogo, this one you should get information for free, and it's provided to you there in Section 12 of the Access to Information Act of 2016. Thank you very much for this dynamic exploration of what the Access to Information Act looks like for Kenyans. Just one thing, when you're talking about information which has hit our desks here in terms of the finance bill of 2024, I just wanted to get your opinion as an expert when it comes to these issues. The Treasury is taking through this finance bill of 2024 to give access to KRA or get personal information, yeah? So financial transactions, you know, expenditure and whatnot, so that they are aware who are tax cheats and who are, you know, you're spending 10 million but tax returns are at nil. So they want to see what you're doing in there. And this is very private, sensitive information. Then there's the Data Protection Act of 2019. And one thing that you've kept saying here is that when it's an act, that's the law. Yeah, you've been provided that power by the Constitution. Is there a way for us to fight this? Whatever the Treasury is trying to do with KRA.
As I mentioned earlier, I think some of these laws or maybe acts of parliament have limitations. And one of the laws that really protects Kenyans is the privacy right.
Yeah,
right to privacy. someone cannot, there's an extent in which someone can access some of your personal information.
Right.
So as much as we're talking about tulipe ushuru tujitegemee, I think it's important for the government of Kenya to understand that, there are limits to what you can
do.
You can access,
Okay.
you can do. Right?
Okay.
So I think the limitations of some of this, and this is my perspective, again, from this kind of, discussions that are going on.
Yeah.
I think Kenyans have that right to, they can advocate for what they want. There's an opportunity for Kenyans to participate in a public participation exercise, for them to be able to, if there are issues that they feel like, no, this is not going through, and this is not for their, it's not of their interest, then they have that opportunity to ensure that this, some of these kind of proposals are what are shut down.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand some of these rights again, limitations to some of these articles, so that we're able to, make that kind of informed decisions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are offices that we can walk into for this to be, taken care of. One is, the legislature, where we have members of parliament, and their whole MO, their whole job, their whole JD is to ensure that everything that is written there in the constitution is, taken into account when the executive is doing its work, or when the government at large is doing its work. So I feel also, maybe just to add on from my own point of view, is, walk, as we are doing public participation for that finance bill of 2024, walk into Bunge Towers, the newly launched, fresh, shining Bunge Towers. Walk into your MP's office, show them Article 35 of the Constitution, and then also show them the 2019 Data Protection Act, and tell them, of course, this is wrong, and therefore, when it comes to voting for the finance bill of 2024, I expect you to be on my side, right?
Exactly. That is how it should be. But again, what we've witnessed from time to time is the same, members of parliament. We elected them to advance our interests as Kenyans. But the challenge we continue to see is they are seen to be advancing the interests of individuals, which again contradicts what is provided for in the Constitution of Kenya.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Constitution is greater than any other individual, regardless of whatever seat they are holding in the Republic. Akikataa pale Bunge Towers, just turn around, go to the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, the ODPC, enacted after that 2019 Data Protection Law. Alafu pia mwambie analalisha kazini. They should be also handling these matters. It's a government agency that's supposed to take care of ensuring there's appropriate handling of your personal data. KRA are very notorious. I want to put them on spot. They started this personal, peeking into personal life just a few years back, when they said they will be monitoring social media activity of Kenyans. Kama unaenda holiday, unapiga aluta back to back, they will be looking at that party after party to see whether you're a tax cheat. Now they want to go after bank transactions, what kind of bank accounts I hold, what kind of properties I own. It's good up to a point where some of that information is way personal for me. So mnanijua sana. Let's go to dinner first. KRA. Yeah. Wapeleke pole pole. Asante sana for creating time for us here this morning. Maybe just a last word when it comes to access to information for Kenyans, just to ensure we are drumming the message home that they should be getting this information availed to them. Kuna disaster management funds zilireleasiwa last year. I've been one of those people on this show asking, wapi 10 billion? So maybe there's a way to also remind Kenyans to use this to their own advantage as a call to action.
Okay. Yeah. So speaking of disaster management fund, I believe that about 1.6 billion was allocated for this particular fund. And as you're aware, about half of that has been spent already. But it's important for Kenyans again to ask such kind of questions.
Yes.
How some of these funds are being utilized. And also you discuss about how the 10,000 is being, the disbursement, the status of that disbursement.
Yes.
And raises questions about accountability and transparency. However, this is my call to action. We really appreciate the Constitution of Kenya because again, it's progressive and inclusive. And when it comes to Access to Information Act, it's very important. It's key in terms of, providing that, so maybe enabling citizens Kenyan citizens who are hardworking to ensure that they're able to, claim their rights as rights holders. They're able to ask questions from the public entities. So this is what I want to ask Kenyans. It's important for you to, take time to understand how this act looks like, and why is it important for you to, understand the processes. How can you get that information? Where can you get that information? And also, there is something that I almost forgot to mention is the same act also provides for an information access officer who will help you in terms of providing that information that you're requesting. So you request that information either from the county or maybe national government. The information access officer will be there. And when I talk about information access officer, that can be a CEO, and the same CEO can either delegate duties to different officers in the office. So you can access any information from any public entity. You have that right, you have the power as provided for in Article 1 of the Constitution. So it's important. And also we are calling on stakeholders and the government itself to also help us in terms of building the capacity of Kenyans and to understand more about this act and all acts of parliament. Yeah.
Okay, all right. The ATI Act, we've delved into the Access to Information Act, a very powerful tool for Kenyans to hold their leaders into account and also to shape the future of this nation. Remember, this is just a blueprint. The most important bit of it is the collective action by informed citizens. And I just want to conclude it with what you said, which was watch, discuss, and act,
yeah.
Right? So let's watch how Kenyans utilize this act and discuss its impact on their lives, as well as work together to ensure that there's a future where transparency of our rights and of our information shines brightly and also helps us put our government institutions and other entities into account. Thank you very much
for
that
so much.
discussion.
Thank you for having me here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, again, of course, not to finish this conversation here. There's much more that will come, especially even after public participation happens.
Exactly.
I think we can get to see
that is true
how that has gone down, right?
Exactly. And also one thing that maybe I don't want to forget is the commencement of the Public Benefits Act that was gazetted by the government of Kenya. I think that is also a milestone for public benefits organizations like us. Then we're able to organize ourselves and be able to advance the interests of Kenyans. So I think it's a step towards the right direction.
Step forward.
Yeah.
I saw CS Kindiki putting out yesterday.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a step forward.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to take some more. Going for a break here on Biashara Tuesday. I'll be right back. Don't go far.